Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of this amazing thing that's just transpired in the last 6 or 8 months called Conversations with Strangers. I originally called it 50 Conversations with 50 Strangers. But after I put out one post about who would like to appear on the show, I was inundated with like 250 responses all in the same day. And I thought, oh my God, what is it about having a conversation with a stranger that is so intriguing? I grew up, my mom always told me, don't talk to strangers. And we told our kids growing up, don't talk to strangers. Right? Because you never know what's going to happen. And then suddenly here I am. My mom's turning over in her grave right now because here I am spending my whole day talking to stranger after stranger after stranger. And one of the interesting things I find is that people are only strangers for a very few moments.
Yeah.
As soon as we connect with somebody, as soon as we hold the space for someone to be themselves, to feel loved and accepted, to feel listened to and heard, to feel acknowledged and validated, those strangers suddenly shed everything that they're not and we allow each other to see everything we are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that will happen here. There's no pressure for it to happen here, but it happens often. And so what I'd like you to do as you're listening to this, not only my guests, but people who are listening, is be a part of the conversation with us. See what you feel as the questions get asked. See what you feel as Sohee answers the questions. And so I have to say very quickly, the show is being sponsored by the Mosaic, which is the book over my left shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole reason for this show is when I wrote the Mosaic, it's a story about a boy who loses his parents 2 years apart on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
And when he asks the adults where his parents are, they tell him they're in a place called heaven. So the boy, as a little boy, sets out in search of the place called heaven. But the people he meets are not the ones you would imagine him to meet. They're not the clergymen and the rabbis and the shamans and the priests and the yogis and the swamis or the Aborigines elders. They're common, ordinary people. They're the road worker and the trash man, the blind woman and the juice man. And he wonders as he's walking along, why are these people the ones he's coming in contact with?
Mm-hmm.
But he hears a voice say, as long as you're here with them, just sit and listen to them. Allow them to tell you their stories and see what happens. And in 100% of the cases, when he listens to them tell their stories, what happens is he realizes the person he originally saw was not at all who this person was.
Mm-hmm.
There's something far more than what he thought he saw. And when that happens to him over and over and over and over and over again, he starts to wonder, is there anything in this world that I see the way it is? Or do I see everything the way I am? As soon as that thought passes through his mind, he looks over to his right and he sees a monk unzipping the sky and inviting him to walk through the sky into a parallel reality where he meets the wise one, who's the keeper of the mosaic, and he's moving all the mosaic pieces around so that people can meet, so that people can interact, so that people can find exactly what it is they're looking for. When I finished writing it, the Mosaic said to me, I want you to go out and do what Mo did. I want you to go out and take a trip around the world. And I want you to sit on street corners and in boardrooms, in hospitals and in prison cells, in hate groups and in love groups. And I want you to sit and just listen to people. I was 14 days away from that happening when COVID came and said, nobody's going anywhere.
Yeah.
So I had to sort of readjust that plan. And that's how Conversations with Strangers came about. We've fulfilled our obligation to our sponsors. They would be very happy if you went to Amazon and got it. It's now available also as an audio book, and so it's easy. It's 3 hours and 11 minutes. You can hear the whole story of what took me 3.5 years to write. Thank you, sponsor. Now, in front of me today is Sohee Jun. And Sohee, I want to thank you so much for being here. I want to thank you for coming, because we to be totally transparent, we have had a couple messages, conversations, but we know really nothing about each other. I know I was introduced to you by another stranger who came in this room, He has a podcast. You were on his podcast. I was on his podcast. He thought that it would be good for us to meet. We'll see if he's right or not. But there's been a certain excitement in me from the moment your name passed my mind. And so I'm very interested to just find out what that excitement is and to have this time to be with you. Welcome, Sohee, to 50 to Conversations with Strangers. I look forward to this conversation. Will you please tell me and everybody listening a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm honored to be here, Danny. So thank you for trusting me and trusting the contact and for bringing me here.
My
And
honor.
your story, and I think that just to add to what you shared about why there's so much around conversations with strangers, I do think it's the perfect time for us to try to connect in any which way. And I think that many of us are desperately seeking connection and we're being told to stay apart. And so that's probably why there's so much interest in like, what can I learn from you and how can I connect with you? But outside of that, so I'll lead with this because it's at the forefront of my life that I am a mother of 3 amazing children. And what I get to do from our living, which I love and fills my soul as well, is a leadership coach to highly ambitious women. And I've done organization development work both inside and outside of companies for 20 years. And so I love what I do and really am focusing on leadership coaching, again, ambitious women and emerging leaders and, the people that are in line to take the next big role and that need all the support they can get.
Yeah. So amazing. First of all, 3 kids and doing what you're doing. Amazing. And congratulations for all of that. I would like to talk a little bit about, well, before we just jump in, how are you doing? Like, how are you really?
Yeah. So I think that's a great question because it differs day to day. So being that I'm in Los Angeles, Danny, I'm not quite sure where you are. We've hit another period of a lockdown and quarantine where, everything's kind of back to where it was when we first started in late March, early April, around nobody can go anywhere. And so,
and for those of you who don't know timeframes, we are talking right now, it is December 8th. So we've been in about 9 months of coronavirus paranormal situations. So I'm sorry for interrupting.
Paranormal, because that's how it feels. And I'll be quite honest with you, I am tired. I'm really tired. And I was having this conversation with one of my really best, dearest friends yesterday, and I said, I'm pretty resilient and I'm pretty optimistic. And, this 9 months, 10th month, whatever month we're in, because now it's hard to keep track. I just feel tired of, that's it. Yeah, I'm weary.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, that's how I feel.
So first of all, thank you for being honest enough to answer that question vulnerably. So often we ask the question, how are you? And it's almost as if it's a salutation. Mm-hmm. And I say, how are you? And people say, fine, good, great. And it takes me a second question to say, hold on now. I actually want to know how you're really doing. Mm-hmm. I'm not interested in the fine, good, great. I'm interested in like, we're having all this stuff going on. How are you doing? You have a beautiful mind and a beautiful heart. I can tell it already from just sitting across from you.
Oh, thank you.
Can you tell me with that beautiful mind and heart, what is it really about the situation that makes you tired?
I think that for me, being as resilient as I am, there is the humanness in me wants things to feel quote unquote normal, whatever the normal was in your context, in my context, and to feel some semblance of that. Because the word that I use a lot these days, I feel really ungrounded. And so whatever that stuff was externally that gave me groundedness, the ability to go out, the ability to go to my workout studio, the ability to drop my kids off at school, any sort of that, that's no longer there right now. It I feel very ungrounded. And, you know, I think your question of what makes me tired, it's that kind of 10th month of that.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I completely get it. And please, I'm going to press you a little bit, not because I want to confront you, just because I think there's so many people out there that are feeling what we're feeling and feeling what you're feeling. And I think that having honest discussions about it and having people that show up vulnerably and talk about it is so important, because so many people are hiding behind the veneer of, no, it's actually okay. Right.
It's not okay. Yeah. And to me, you know, when people, so here's the thing. So sorry to jump right in there,
No, you can
Danny,
jump
but
in. You're in.
I think what's the push and pull is that the spike in use of technology and social media this time is up, right? Because where is our connection? Where do we get that right now? And it's through, you know, doing these Zooms, it's through Facebook, it's through Instagram, whatever ways in which we try to feel connected and know what's going on in the world. And that world is so unreal to what's happening in the day to day that it could feel very like I don't know what the right word is, but it could feel very jarring in that, oh my gosh, there's all these beautiful things and people are posting happy photos, yet I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
And so in that there are a load of shoulds and what you should feel. Why do I feel this way? But the reality is this is a really chaotic time where there's so many different things going on for the entire community at large. So, you know, you've gone through things personally that didn't happen in the outer world. I've gone through many things in my life. But the fact that we're all in this together and each of us have these layered contexts. Like for me, I have 3 kids, I'm divorced, I'm handling, you know, they are schooling from home, I'm trying to manage their mental, emotional, while trying to manage that for myself, while running my own business, while trying to, you know, do all the XYZ stuff. And that's a lot. And that, you know, I think a lot of people feel that whatever stuff they're responsible for and whoever they're taking care of can feel heavy on a lot of days, especially now.
So humor me, if you will, for a moment. Okay.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that Buddhism talks about is pain and suffering comes when we want things to be other than they are. And joy comes from the acceptance of things the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
And when we find contentment somehow in whatever is happening right in front of us, rather than thinking it should be other than it is.
Mm-hmm.
I also find, and I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. It's sort of a long question, a long story to tell a short question. When I look at, I love the fact that you work with corporations and women that are leading those corporations, high valued women. When I look at corporations in the workplace, what I see is that unless we are willing to confront or look at or embrace unlike ideas, unless we're able to sit with people of like and unlike mind, we normally don't get out of the silo of thought that we're in to allow real innovation to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I take that concept and I apply it to a personal world, it feels like COVID. I was writing a newsletter about this that I'm still in the process of doing, because it's a hard newsletter for me to write vulnerably and authentically. I think when the year 2020 started, I had such high hopes for it. There was something seemed magical about the perfect vision of seeing the world 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And now, as 2020 is almost over, and I look back and I see what the perfect vision of 2020 was or is, it isn't at all the vision that I thought I was going to see. But that doesn't make it any less a perfect vision of the world that we live in. It's just the perfect vision of the world that I wanted to see was more beautiful, more like inspirational, more powerful. And yet what we're actually seeing is some of the pain and suffering that's been in us all this time that is just coming to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
the question is, after all that, sorry, monologue, is
Pandering.
yes, I'm, just trying to mosaic these pieces of the story together. We don't do well with sitting in pain. Most of us get in painful situations and try and find the quickest way out.
Mm-hmm.
It feels to me that this time of COVID, where we can't go outside and we have to go inside, or we have to stay inside, is allowing us to look at some of those places within us that there is pain.
Mm-hmm.
And not escape them in the ways we normally do. I mean, we can still watch Netflix and we can still have Zoom calls and we can still do this, but there's a certain separateness to us now that is making us sit amongst our own reality.
Yeah, and I call that, the buffers, where we don't have the buffers, we don't have the distractions that we used to. And it is awfully hard to sit because I would say to people, like, shame on us if we don't use this time somehow to reflect on our own lives, because now is the time, because we're being forced to look at ourselves and our internal lives and our emotional state and who we are as humans and what we prioritize. It's like, if we don't use this time to do that, I think that's a big miss. Now, that's hard. It's hard to do. I mean, when you mentioned the Buddhist monk, my dad was an ordained Buddhist monk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, my parents studied it since their 40s, and he became an ordained Buddhist monk when he was 56. And so, I have been around that philosophy and way of thinking, and I'm very spiritual in that way. I wouldn't call myself an official Buddhist, but very
Right.
spiritual.
Me
So,
either. I'm not an official Buddhist either, but
aspiring.
I think unofficial Buddhist is better.
So I get it, and it is hard because it just doesn't feel good. It feels murky, and people do want to drink, and like, why not drink? The buying of alcohol has gone up, right? I mean, let's address that for a second. And we try to distract ourselves in other ways, but I think that the work is to sit in it, to your point.
Yeah. And one of the things, I was approached by a company by the name of Vistage, and Vistage takes people, Vistage,
Yep.
so they wanted me to run their, CEO group down here. And I went through it for a little while, and then it wasn't mine to do. But one of the things that I loved about what they did do is they say, when people come to us and they think we're going to provide answers to their questions, but in reality, what we do is we provide questions to their answers.
Yeah.
And I wish I had come up with that, so I give credit to them because it's just fabulous. It's really what I do also. So with that in mind, what if it weren't as hard as we thought it was? What if it weren't as painful as we thought it would be? What if it was actually the most beautiful adventure in the world just waiting for us to get behind the doors of our own resistance, to just sit with it and really discover who we were as people?
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be lovely? Wouldn't that be lovely? And
so I guess what I'm asking is, why do you think that people think it's so hard? Or why do you even yourself think it's so hard?
So I think that goes into my context, which is, I am coming off, last year, 2019 was a year in which my mom died from pancreatic cancer.
I'm sorry.
And I was her primary caregiver. I, day in and day out was with her in the battle. And I have no regrets about that. It was an honor to be there with her every step of the way. And that kind of wore me down. I have a lot of energy. I have high capacity. I've got, I can do a whole lot. And that in and of itself took a little bit out of me. And then this year, and fully in the throes of divorce. So for me, my story is that I'm tired, and I kind of just don't want to sit in it, because there's been a lot of heaviness in my life in the past 2 years that in which I'm ready. And for me, 2020 was like, I'm ready to have a little fun, a little lightness, and a little levity. And to the world, for the world to say, okay, well, it's not time for that yet. You still need to sit in it and let the grief come up and let all that stuff process. So that's why for me, it's a little heavy.
Yeah.
For others, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. First of all, I appreciate that, and I'm sorry to hear of the past 2 years that you've had. I know similar pains that they may not have been compacted in 2 years, the 2 years time, but I know many of those pains that you speak of, and I speak to people a lot about those pains. One of the things that I see in the world that I have the honor of having a 31-year-old developmentally delayed daughter.
Hmm.
Believe me, Sohee, it was not always my honor to have her. It was not always how I would express my relationship to her, because she's not able to have conversations like this.
Yeah.
She just sometimes, she can't say, when she speaks, people don't understand her.
Mm-hmm.
But she counts on me because I'm her dad and I love her so much and we're so connected.
Mm-hmm.
She counts on me to be able to understand her. And to her credit, most of the time I do.
That's great.
It's amazing. I don't know quite how it happens, but I do. But there are lots of times that I don't. And when I don't, what will happen is she'll raise her voice and she'll say it louder. Sometimes she'll scream it. And to her credit, she thinks, this guy's getting old, so maybe I need to say it louder so he can hear me. Maybe he's losing his hearing. And to her credit, that's not really what's happening. But sometimes when she does say it louder, the way she pronounces it changes a little bit. And I get it a little bit. Most times not, but sometimes. When she yells it and I still don't get it, she'll throw a tantrum.
Oh, yeah.
And when she tantrums and I still don't get it, she'll come running to me and try and rip my shirt or bite me or attack me.
Yeah.
And so this went on in my life for a long time, probably about 15 years. And I like to think that I'm a sensitive man who tries to understand and listen to people and hear people and do things. But in this case, I couldn't figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
One day she was running at me in rage to just try and hurt me. And I looked at her and I said, Elisa, we can't do this anymore. This isn't working.
Mm.
You know how much I love you. You know how much I want to understand you. I just can't understand your words. Will you please talk to me in a way that doesn't use words so I can understand you?
Oh, that's clever.
And she stopped dead in her tracks. And from the pit of her soul, a smile came onto her face.
Oh.
And she looked at me and she said, I am Daddy, in perfect English. And I said, I'm sorry, what the expletive deleted are you talking about? How in the heck are you doing that? And she took her finger and she put it to the side of her head like this. And what I understood from that is because she knew she couldn't say her words clear enough for me to understand them, but she could telepathically communicate her thoughts to me without any barrier, except the barrier that I didn't know that she was doing that.
Wow.
But I did know she was doing that. I heard the thoughts many, many times. I just didn't trust them. And I said to her, you little son of a gun, have you been putting thoughts in my head all this time? And she did what you're doing, but with 1,000 times more relief, because all the stress of knowing she can't communicate to finally realizing that it's been discovered how she could talk to me and I could hear her. We laughed for about 15 or 20 minutes contagiously.
Oh,
From that moment on, Sohee, she never yelled, she never tantrumed, and she never attacked.
that is amazing.
It literally blew my mind. And if that were the end of the story, I would have been grateful, because now I have a relationship with my daughter I could never have before.
Yeah.
But I got a little greedy. I wanted to see if other people were just like my daughter.
Uh-huh.
I went into families that I work with. I went into businesses that I work with. I went into government offices that I work with. I didn't go in, I don't work with prisons yet, but I went into prisons and I looked. I went into hospitals and I looked at the way people are treated there. And what I realized is every single person was doing exactly what my daughter was doing in a different way. When they
Mhm.
spoke and they didn't get heard, they yelled. When they yelled and they didn't get heard, they created a scene, they created chaos or a tantrum, or they did something. And when their tantrum didn't work, they would either attack people's personality, their reputation, their place that they lived in. They would blow up a building. They would shoot people in the town square. And I realized my little 31-year-old daughter had taught me the way to end conflict, because everybody follows speak, yell, tantrum, attack.
That is the formula for what happens in corporations. You know that, Danny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so again, I ask I tell long stories for short questions. Like, I get that this time is trying on you,
Yeah.
but what do you think you're being told that you haven't quite heard yet, that it would have to go through all these iterations to get you to this place where it finally has to wear you down so that you'll be open enough to hear the message that this world wants to say to you through the death of your mom, through the divorce, through COVID-19? What do you think is trying to be said to you?
I'll have to genuinely sit on that.
Okay.
I think I feel that it's trying to tell me that it's okay, like whatever is okay,
Yeah.
and that I don't have to do anymore.
Yeah.
That's what I hear most often, that I don't have to do anymore.
Yeah. And even as I listen to your story and I just hear you, you're like Superwoman. You're like balancing all these things and doing all these things. But the bar of that is so exhausting,
Yeah.
right? And for you to be able to, even in this moment, just contemplate the thought that you don't have to be Superwoman anymore, that you live in a benevolent, kind world where things will support you, that you don't have to drive it, that it's there, that you have people that love and adore you, that are there for you if you need them. The world itself loves and adores you. What do you think about that? What would change for you in this moment if you no longer had to be Superwoman?
Probably I would let some of those things go. Those things that weigh me down, those things, what I call the shoulds in my life of, oh, I should do this and make it fun and entertaining for my kids for the next when they have break. Or even though I'm, like I would just want to sit around and do nothing with them.
Yeah,
That's top of mind because literally I was thinking about that today. Like, what should I do with them and keep them entertained and how and all that. I would probably be easier on myself in many ways.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you said something when you sent me your links, and I always ask people, what's the one thing they would say to the world if they could say anything? And what you said touched me so much. Um, and it made me realize how close I feel to you without even knowing you.
Mhm.
Um, and you said your greatest contribution, this is what you would say, your greatest contribution in the world is your authentic presence and your ability to make people feel heard, seen, and valued. In light of the conversation we're having right now,
That's like so you as well.
I know. I mean, like you are a prettier, feminine version of me.
Funny.
That's what I felt like when I read that. I felt like, hold it, where has this woman been my whole life?
Oh, that's funny.
But
I,
in light of that statement with this conversation, how would you do that for yourself right now?
I think it is in this process that we're working through that,
Yeah,
the fact that you're reflecting back to me those questions that I ask all of the people I coach and get to work with, and to put that back on me for a minute. Um, I think that that's what it is. You, from the get-go, I felt very seen and heard. And I'm like, oh, we're gonna go deep. We're going deep with Danny here. And so it's taking that time to do that.
Does going deep with another person excite you or scare you?
I love it. I find that there isn't enough of that.
Yeah.
There isn't enough of that. I mean, I think people feel scared to be vulnerable on certain levels, right? We all have a veneer, and especially when I work with people in the corporate world, I call them the cardboard version of themselves.
Yeah.
You know, it's all the shiny and all the stuff and everything's okay, when really we're walking around with a lot of pain and or whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
So I love going deep.
Yeah. Well, for separate cover, I would love to have these conversations continue, not on camera, but just to get to know you as a person and be there for you as a person and have you there for me as a person as well.
Thank
So
you.
that would be something I would like.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, I used to do innovation workshops for corporations. And I walked into this corporation. They were on the 48th floor of a skyscraper in New York City. And the elevator doors opened and you could see the elegance of their organization in every placement of everything in the office. You could see the magnificence of each person and the way they dressed and the way their offices looked and the way everything was just perfectly right.
Yeah.
They were all wearing Armani suits and three-piece, suits and pantsuits and beautiful skirts and, beautiful clothing. I came in to do the workshop in jeans and a t-shirt.
Well, did you do that on purpose or?
Absolutely, I did it on purpose. And I walked into the room that the workshop was going to be in. And I said, what's going on here? And they said, well, sir, what do you need? Because we're about to start a workshop and we're waiting for the person to come to lead the workshop. Are you here to get the garbage? And I said, I think I am, actually. And they pointed me to the garbage can. And I said, the only problem is I don't think it's in that can. I think it's around the table.
Oh.
And they looked at me and they said, sir, what is it you want with us? And I said, oh, I don't really want anything from you. You've already paid me. So if you don't want me to be here, I'm more than happy to go. But I'm the one that's leading your innovation workshop. How do you think you're doing so far? You expected me to look just like you, to feel just like you, to talk just like you.
Powerful.
How did you ever imagine you would get innovation that way? We had one of the most beautiful innovation workshops that I've ever done with those people because they were able to change on a dime.
Yeah.
What do you think it would take for people to change on a dime and allow other people who they don't think are people they would listen to suddenly listen to them?
I mean, I think that that's what you did was so very, and I know much of that was on purpose, but I think it is those moments when you're kind of, it's a shock to the system in a way to be able to shake you out of your everyday. And I think it's something that juxtaposes like what, as humans, we want routine, we want the thing which is safe, we want what we know, we like the things, the people that dress like us, the people that think like us. And in order to really upend that, I think it takes something like what you did, right? To kind of just startle people and go, oh, wait a second, let me wake up and, change my mind or reframe things. And I talk about reframing things a lot because I try to do that for myself, reframe things and see what is the possibility in all this. And I love that you did that. It takes risk too as a facilitator and a person to do that.
Yeah. What's important to you?
Oh, health, love, community, and community comes in all different ways. But meaningful community, not just people that you say hi to, but people that you can have real conversations with.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself empathic?
100%.
Yeah. I was going to say as an empath, but then I thought I should make sure you understand that you feel that way.
Mhm.
So in this time where people can't physically be with each other, can you allow your empathetic self, and I know you can because you're doing it with me right now, and you've done it with me since we arranged this conversation. I felt you before you came into this room,
Mm.
okay? Because I could feel your energy and I could feel your openness to having this kind of conversation.
It was good energy, right?
Absolutely good energy. No, absolutely good energy. Beautiful, 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 heartfelt, beautiful energy.
Thank you.
Can you trust that empathetic self in a time where our physical bodies can't be next to each other, but that the vibration of who we are as human beings can touch each other with unlimited access all the time?
Yes and no. I'll say yes. When I feel grounded, yes. When I'm in the, like in my head, no. When I, when I'm like, oh, I don't know, I don't feel inspired, I don't know, am I doing the right thing? When I'm caught up in here, no.
Yeah. What allows you to go from your head to the feeling of groundedness that you can trust that empathetic feeling?
When I breathe, deep breathing, when I take 5 minutes to meditate, and it always goes back to what I call like the basics, really basic grounding things for me: breathing, journaling, meditating.
Yeah, but you have a very full life. You have 3 kids and you have a work and you have, you just had situation with your mom where you had to be available to other people. So oftentimes those places are hard to find of time where you can separate out and have that time for yourself. Um,
Yeah, and I also find it interesting because I have also known, and I think this should, not should, but this is something that I want to lean into a little more, is to giving to, like, focusing on others, right? When there is this like void everywhere, you're in your head and you're in your own body. And then you forget that when you can help somebody else, it gets you out of your whatever that thing you're stuck on and focused on serving. And so I have just regrounded myself on that. How can I serve others? Not in a way that depletes me, but in a way that allows me to feel connected and like I'm doing something beneficial for other people. And it could be things like Zoom, but something else. I'm really noodling with that.
yeah. So remember, I see things differently than other people. So I would like to invite a question around that.
Okay.
Um, as I hear the question form, it's not sounding like I want it to sound. So if it doesn't sound if it doesn't sound like it's coming through with all the love of my heart to you, please just accept my inability to say it properly.
Yep.
We are a society that thinks when we help other people, it's a beautiful thing. And I don't want to get in the way of that. Of course, it's beautiful to help other people. But so often I find that we're so busy helping other people, we've forgotten about ourselves.
Mm.
And one of the things the Mosaic has taught me is that in order to connect to other people, we first have to be connected to ourselves. We have to be connected to something greater than ourselves. We have to be connected to our purpose. And then we have real connection with another person. Our purposes don't have to be the same, but when you're purposeful and I'm purposeful and we come together, we just come together and we grow each other's purpose together. Even if they're in different directions, we still grow it together.
Mm.
But we can't do that as long as we're protecting ourselves with the silo and the silo is around all the times we hit ourselves, because like I can only hit myself so many times this with time like this until I put a thing up to say, oh, that hurts. I want to protect myself. And I protect myself from my own negative thoughts about myself, my own thoughts of what I should be, what I shouldn't be. And when I put this up, look how close this is. My reality becomes a silo from head to foot, 2 millimeters from my being.
Yeah.
Right? When I stop hitting myself and I'm kind to myself, suddenly need to protect myself from hits that a kind person doesn't hit themselves. So I don't need this wall around me. And suddenly I can just walk into the world, go, whoa, look at this world. And then I might see you and I say, wow, there's a beautiful woman who's smart and intelligent. I'm scared to death of what she'll do to me or what could happen, you know? And I might get scared, but then I understand kindness is what solved the problem for me with myself. If I'm kind to you and I'm loving to you and I'm accepting of you and I'm vulnerable with you, then you're probably not going to hit me. You might hit somebody else or you might do something else to somebody, but you're probably not going to be me.
Mhm.
Um,
I love what you said there, because in grounding and focusing on ourselves, and we are in extension helping other people by our presence.
yeah. The image of a mosaic is so intoxicating to me because it's made up of all these pieces,
Yeah.
but the pieces come together and create this beautiful wholeness. And the beauty of the wholeness of all those pieces is so much more beautiful than anything we could ever be on our own.
Mm-hmm.
And the mosaic asks me, what if we weren't broken pieces that come together, but what if we were completely whole, but it's only our brokenness that sees us as broken pieces? So that in reality, there is no difference between being kind to myself and being kind to you, because you and I are the same.
Ooh, I love that.
Are you aware of an energy shift that just happened to you right there?
No.
Because I don't want to get too weird, but I just saw like an energy field grow around you. You have this like this beautiful white light all around you, around your head there, and it just like really, it just came out very strong. Now that we're talking about it, it went back a little bit.
But what is that light? What is that energy?
I just feel, I don't know. I just felt like something shifted in you, that you opened up to another place where you allowed that to be seen, where you allowed yourself to be not, I mean, you haven't felt siloed to me at all in this conversation. But now as we're talking about it again, it's growing again around you. There's just this luminous light around you. So for better or for worse, if even if I'm just, did too much, drugs as a kid, then maybe that's all that's happened.
No, I just it could be. Oh,
It could, it could be, but it's really powerful right now. And I'd be interested to see when you see the video, if you see it also, or if you can, because I see it. So, what are you most scared about?
oh, geez. Failure. And I don't know how to make that concrete outside of just that's what it is right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What if it weren't possible to fail?
I mean, listen, I've been told that my entire like you just don't know how to fail. I don't know, like it's but and that underneath means that there's an unshakable like knowing, right, that it will be okay. And there's some days when I know that, and
Yeah.
I also then have to trust that.
Yeah.
So I'm getting there.
I love how honest you are, because I think that's real for everybody. And um, what do you think would happen if you failed?
If I failed, I'll probably know how to pick myself back up again. And if I failed, I don't know. I'd have to sit with that. I don't know.
So, and I'm here after you sit, if you decide to sit with it and something comes up, I'm more than happy to have another conversation with you around it, because if you're scared of failure, but you're not sure what would happen if you failed, your response was, I would probably pick myself up. Not too much to be scared about in that moment.
Yeah.
Because if you fail, and we all fail, and we fall down and we get back up, and that's not really scary. It's just what we do, right?
Mhm.
But there seems like there's something else that is at the base of that fear that maybe you wouldn't be able to get back up again.
Yeah, and I think the central theme in my life has been around trusting myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, trusting myself that no matter what comes my way, I will find a way and it will be okay.
Do you think that's why you present as Superwoman?
I would I would probably be lying if I said no. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Why do you think sometimes others see us so much clearer than we see ourselves? Like everything about you from the moment we made first contact, before I even knew who you were. I still don't know who you are really, because we're not, right? But everything about you exudes this ability to stand, to be strong, to love, to be there for people, to hold that space for people to be seen and heard and listened to. That everything about you lifts people up from the place of where they feel what might happen to them if they were to fail.
Mhm. That is at the core of my work.
Right, right. And so why would you not do that for yourself?
Yeah.
And you don't see it, but I'm talking to a mirror right here. Okay, so this isn't me teaching you anything. This is me just sharing with you my heart to your heart.
Mhm. I think that is the question for my life.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Yeah.
What are you most excited by?
I'm excited. I mean, there's so many ways to answer that. I am excited by watching my kids grow into whoever they are becoming. I'm excited by adventures that await me. I don't know what that is, but I'm excited by whatever that could be. Um, I'm excited about my work. I mean, there's just so much.
I understand.
Yeah.
Would you say you're a person that operates from your head or your heart?
Oh, mostly heart. If I get too in my head, I feel disconnected. Yeah.
And how about on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being you are the definition of trust in the dictionary, and 1 is you don't know what that word means.
Mhm.
Where would you rank yourself in terms of trust?
Trusting others, trusting myself, trusting the world.
Yes.
Um,
Right now it's a big balloon, a big hot air balloon with all of that in
I would say 7.5.
it. Okay. Is that surprising to you, or does that,
No, it's not surprising to me. I think it would have been higher. What I was reflecting on is the moments when I freely gave trust, and that fit me. So I'm like, let me just rein that in a little bit. So probably 7.5 versus the 9.
yeah, yeah. Okay. And when you trusted and it bit you, what happened?
Man, that hurts.
Yeah.
It hurt.
And so, pardon my sort of bulldog tendency, and we're getting close to the end, so you're going to be free of me in a few minutes.
I'm like, what? Did I enter into therapy for myself, Danny? What is this?
Um, Going back to my daughter's formula of speak, yell, tantrum, and attack, and trusting, and ouch, that hurts. What would you say is being said to you in that trusting that you might not be hearing, that would make it go, ouch, that hurts?
I don't know. Can you ask it another way?
Yeah, I think everybody in the world is on some measure of a scale of trust. Some people trust a lot. Some people don't trust so much. Some people who have used to trust a lot have gotten hurt when they trust, and they scale it back to protect themselves and silo themselves because they don't know that they can trust anymore because they've gotten hurt trusting.
Mm-hmm.
But in the world that my daughter has taught me to live in, hurt is not a bad thing. It's just a voice that is, it's what happens to our voice when it, to the voice when it doesn't get heard.
Mm.
And so it's a cry of love for us to hear something that we haven't been hearing. So in that beautiful trusting soul of Sohee, who trusted without exception and got bit, and ouch, that hurt. You don't have to answer on camera. You can, it's just something to leave you with. What was it, do you think, that made you, why did it have to bite you rather than just talk to you and hold you and love you?
And that is the question. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up as beautifully and for trusting me as much as you did. We don't know each other. You've trusted an imperfect stranger and allowed me to sit with you in a very intimate way by allowing me to see you and allowing you to see, and hopefully you've seen me as well.
Mm-hmm.
And often what happens in this room is people tell me who they are, but the experience that I have of them in this room is not what they say they are, not the story they told me of who they are.
Mm.
Who you have been with me is not someone who is not scared to trust, or 7.5 is still good on the trusting scale. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's a pretty high number. Okay. Right. But you have no reason to trust me, but you trusted me way past the 7.5, I think.
That's true.
And if you can do that with an imperfect stranger like myself, I would like to invite you to get back to that place where you are this beautiful human being, and who you are brings you what you have. And it's your ability to love and trust. And if I can quote you, to have an authentic presence and an ability to make people feel seen, heard, and valued.
That's so good.
Right? Don't lose that. No matter what happens, how painful it gets, no matter how many times you get bitten, stay there. It's so, because who you are is so beautiful, and the world needs beautiful people like you.
Thank you.
So if people have fallen in love with you and want to know how to get in touch with you, we'll have all your social media links and all that in the show notes. But what's the surefire way they can get in contact with you, to either just get in touch with you, to hire you to come into their companies, to what's the best way?
Just find me on my website. Go to my website. I always respond there.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And I also want to say that you wrote a book called Mommy Tracked, which is available on Amazon. It was an Amazon bestseller.
Yeah.
And so for people who want to know more about Sohee, please make sure you go to Amazon and pick up her book, Mommy Tracked.
Thank you. I think I needed this just in time.
Beautiful. I think I needed it too. So thank you. Thank you for being here. And for all of those who come and listen to the show, thank you so much for being here with us. If you like the show, please share the show with your friends. So that's what happens when we like something. We tell our friends that we like it, and then it grows and they have a chance to like it too, and tell their friends that they liked it. And I think this is a show that's worth sharing around with people. This is a woman that's worth getting to know. And I'm honored that we took this time to spend together and had the chance to get to know each other a little bit. Thank you for that. Before
Thank you.
we go, is there one last thing you want to say quickly before we head out?
I think I would love to just spread more of this in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
the
let's figure out how we can do it together, and maybe we can play together and do that. For those of you who are listening, do me a favor. This is the challenge I end with all the time. Look how easy it is to turn a stranger into a friend. All you have to do is love them and accept them, listen to them and hear them, acknowledge and validate them. And look how easy. So he came in as somebody I didn't know. She's leaving as someone that if I'm around her any place at any time, I would love to sit with her, have a coffee, have a drink, have a dinner, have something, because she now feels close to me in my heart. Do that for somebody. Go up to somebody you don't know and take a few minutes and just ask them how they're doing and see if the same thing doesn't happen to you. When we live in a world that is full of strangers, the world is a strange world. When we live in a world that's full of friends, the world is a friendly world. The world needs to be a little more friendly now. Let's together make this world a friendly world. Until the next stranger comes, thank you again, Sohee, so much. Big love to you.
Thank you. This was amazing. Thank you.
And thank you to everybody for being here. Ciao.